everyone. Welcome to this session, this month's session, which is a July session. And this month has been started with amazing meetups. Today we had a meetup in Pune, in-person meetup, wherein there was a good turnout with wonderful session. And we will be sharing the slide shortly. We will be tweeting it from the official InfoSec Girls handle. And also, we had a meetup in Mumbai, which was more of a workshop, which was a hands-on workshop, full-day workshop on buffer overflow by Monica. So we will be sharing further details from the official handle. And today's session, we have two speakers. Third speaker couldn't join due to personal emergency. So we have Gayatri and Shruti Rupa, who's leading Pune chapter, Pune InfoSec Girls chapter. If you have any questions regarding the Pune setup, please feel free to reach out to her. And for Mumbai, you can reach out to Deepika or Monica. Now we will be starting off with the session. So I would like to hand it over to Shruti so that she can take it further. And the questions you can post it on the chat box. And once the session is over, I will facilitate the questions which you will have on the particular topic. So over to you, Shruti Rupa. You can share your screen and tell about yourself so that people can connect back once the session is over.
Sure. Thank you, Vandana. And I'm here sharing the screen. Is it visible?
Not yet. You need to click on the screen share icon, which is with an arrow. Once you click on that.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Is it
we
visible?
can see your screen. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, you need to do the full screen mode.
Okay. Yeah. So can I start now? Am I audible?
You're audible, but it's still not on the full screen mode.
I have put it on full screen. Wait
Can
a
you
minute.
move your slides, please, once? No, Shruti, your slides are not moving.
Are they now?
Click on it. Click on the second slide, please.
Yeah, I have clicked.
No, it's not moving. I think you'll have to close it and reopen it again.
Okay.
Perfect. We can see your slides. You can start with your introduction and then about your topic.
Sure. Is it visible now? Like I'm changing the slides.
Yes, it's visible.
Okay. So hi everyone. Today I'm going to talk about solving boot to root challenge. You can contact me at Twitter at freak_crypt. So here I start. Like, who am I? I work as a web application security analyst under WAF research at Qualys. Apart from that, I am a blockchain and security enthusiast, and I perform my research in those fields independently. I am a maths lover. I love maths and cryptography, and currently, as Vandana said, I am leading InfoSec Girls Pune chapter. So here is today's agenda. Like, what is a boot to root challenge? Why is it important? How do you start with it? And a small interpretation of a challenge. Basically, I will be talking about, like, if you are a beginner who only knows some certain basics of security and certain vulnerabilities like OWASP top 10 and everything, how do you use those knowledge of yours, that theoretical knowledge of yours, to enumerate and further get a shell? By getting a shell, I mean you are getting the access of the system, of the server, through the URL that you have been given. So in the boot to root challenge, this will be one of my approach how I started learning solving CTFs, because I am a big CTF fan. So it was like how I started taking help of walkthroughs, how I use those walkthroughs to understand the technical stuff, and how I use some of my knowledge and some of my understanding from the walkthroughs in solving a boot to root challenge. So here I start. So what is a boot to root challenge? Basically, boot to root challenges are like you have been given a URL or an IP address, you perform some enumeration, you try to understand what all applications it is using, I mean, what all services they are using at the backend, what all languages have been used, and using those, and if they are having certain vulnerabilities, then how you are exploiting them to get access of the server over which it is hosted. Apart from that, how you are trying to get the root shell, because until and unless you have to be the admin or administrator, or you have to do some kind of like if you have to find a file from which is having root access, just the root access, how you are able to do that. So I'll be telling you what was my approach. It can be one of your approach, or you can take a bit of help from here to improvise your approach towards solving a boot to root challenge. Why is it important? Because to understand the basics of penetration testing and security. So until and unless you do some practical stuffs with the technical things that you know, about the vulnerabilities and exploits you know, until and unless you do anything practical about it, it's of no use, because you'll just be knowing the theoretical one and you need to implement it somewhere. You need to reproduce the already existing exploit that are available in the web. Apart from that, you need to learn more and more, because it is an unending process. You'll keep on learning every time. Each time you get a new kind of machine, each day a new vulnerability is coming. Each time there is a zero-day vulnerability, anything is coming, and you keep on learning. It is just an unending process. And most importantly, it is fun. It is completely fun for me. I love solving CTFs. I love solving challenges. Though being a beginner, being at the beginner level, I do take help of walkthroughs, which I'll be showing you how I did that. But it is fun because you're at the end learning something, and there will be a point of time when you're solving certain machines on your own. So how do you start with it? Like, my personal favorite is OneHub. It has many machines. There are virtual images, VirtualBox images, VMware images, which you can download, you can connect to them, and you can actually solve them. There are hack the box machines. There are, under hack the box, there are certain active machines. There are some retired machines. For active machines, you don't have any walkthrough. For OneHub machines, there are walkthroughs which are available, which can be a helpful thing for people who are at their beginner level. Rootme.org is another one where you will get some CTFs, web-based challenges you will get both at the client side and the server side. You will get some some machines as well, to such as boot to root kind of machines, and there are many more. So a small interpretation of a challenge, I actually solved a very simple machine to show you how I performed a basic level of enumeration and completely at the beginner's level, to understand how you can enumerate, what will be your approach. So as Abraham Lincoln said, if you give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, I'll spend the first 4 sharpening the axe, which is completely true. So if you have been given a URL or an IP address, you need to understand what services they are running on, what are the ports open, how are they actually functioning, what kind of requests are being sent, how is the server behaving when you are giving any kind of malformed request, or if any kind of thing, any kind of request that you are sending them, how is the server behaving? You have to understand that completely. This is the first part where you have to enumerate completely. So that is the point. Like, you're sharpening your X, you are actually enumerating the URL, you're enumerating the application completely in such a way that you can actually understand how each and every module, each and everything is, each and every function is working over there. Because you need to understand so that you can perform further exploits or to understand the vulnerabilities. So here I solved a machine sec OS 1, author is Paul Sec. I'll share the slides with you. So here is the link, and I have also shared the links which I have used at the end of my presentation. So the machine, yeah, the basic thing is why I chose this machine. First of all, it's an older one. Since when I started solving CTFs, while I was solving the first or second or third CTF challenges over here, I always preferred using older ones because they had multiple walkthroughs and they are focused on beginners. Why I use this machine? Because it is completely at for the beginner. It is an older one. It has multiple walkthroughs. You can actually go through all the walkthroughs if you want. You can see how each and every security researcher had their own way of solving the machine. This will also help you understanding what can be your approach. You can take help of few approaches and you can try something out of your own. Next, let's start. Let's see how I solved and how I took help of walkthroughs and how I used some of my brain. And I was solving this machine with a friend of mine, Ishak, who actually helped me with solving this machine. So this is the machine, basically Sec OS. This is the URL. I've shared it in the end also. From here, you can download. So basically what I did is I forgot to take a screenshot of it. So I've actually written what I have done. So basically my machine where I solve CTFs is a Kali machine. The host machine is Kali. And I downloaded it. Had an OWA file. I downloaded it. It was on bridge mode. I kept it on bridge mode so that I and my friend, both of us, can solve together. So based on the IP that we had, the private IP that we had, we just tried to know what is the IP of the machine that we have just downloaded. So we did Nmap. You can do net discover. There are many other utilities as well to do. That completely depends upon you. You need to find out which IP you are working on or you're looking for. So I got the IP which was 103. So here I performed Nmap scan, full port scan. I needed to know what all services are there, what all ports are open. Is there any web application, I mean, which any HTTP port open? And here I can see that there is node.js. So the first thing which I focused on, understanding how node.js is working. It is working on port 8081. So I will be actually trying opening this URL, this IP address at port 8081. Apart from that, there's another thing, there's another port which is 22. So SSH is there. Now, suppose if there was another, it is my personal approach, and most of the walkthroughs, you will see how they are actually solving it. You'll see sometimes they have FTP open, port 21 is also open. So in that case, what do? I look for anonymous login if there is any. So here, since there is an SSH port open, so what I guessed is there might be somewhere from where I can guess this password. Now, since you know Sec OS is the name, you can just randomly try to connect it to through SSH. You can just do some kind of dictionary attack, though it is not that necessary right now. But there's no harm in trying. You never know. It may work. Sometimes it may work. Or you can enumerate through the web applications thoroughly so that you can get some usernames which can be enumerated, whose passwords can be guessed. You never know. So here we have port 8081 open, which is running HTTP. So the next thing that I did is I opened at port 8081. So this is a web application. It is giving me a hint. Like explore the website, get root, read the flag. Now there are two kinds of, I would say, solving such kind of CTFs. One where you are getting access to the root. Another where you are able to read certain content, certain files, certain directories which are having only root access. So here what I focused on, getting the flag.txt, it was not necessary for me to gain the complete root access. Like if you have ever heard of Hack the Box machine and if you have ever solved, so you have to find two flags most of the time. Actually, mostly in Hack the Box machines. In WorldHub also there are many machines like that, where you'll have to find one user based flag and another root based flag. So if you are able to get a shell access, suppose you can easily get the user flag, but for getting the root flag, sometimes you don't get the root access. You can actually get, there are ways how to get that. But if you're able to read the flag which is necessary, you don't have to get that, right? So I'll show how actually we tried doing this. So the next thing that I ran is Nikto. It was not that useful, but though I told you, because we have to enumerate, so we try most of the tools, we try everything to find what all what all ports open, what, any directories that we can find, any hidden directories that we can see. So for that I ran Derby. There are certain files directories that we can see. From here we can actually understand that there are certain files which we can access. How? Through code 200, which says that it is okay, HTTP okay, and it has certain size length also. So it means there is something in that page, so you can actually access. But if you see the code with 303 and yeah, there's 301, it means it is redirecting. 300 is mostly for redirection, so it is some kind of related to redirection. And apart from that, you can see there is size 0, which means it may not be having something in it. It is just to, since it is a challenge, it is just to create a rabbit hole or something. But since there are less number of files and directories over here, you can actually go through each of them, so it's no harm doing that. But apart from Derby, I also ran Derbuster. You can run GoBuster also, W first. There are many tools. You can run all of them. Sometimes you do not get all the files, all the hidden files that are present there. So you have to run multiple tools. So I ran both of them for now because it was at the beginner's level and it did not require much of efforts at that point of time, because we found few things, we found few pages. So we had to look into those pages first. So apart from that, I went to about page and I looked into the source code. Now looking into the source code is another good factor, because sometimes, because these are challenges, they do give you some hints. Like here I got a hint telling that there is a /hint file, which is telling you about something. Like, right. So let us go to the /hint path. So here it is giving us 3 different hints. I mean, there it has given us some hint. First, second, and third, if you can see at the bottom. First, the admin visits the website really frequently. So it means there is something related, like you can guess that there is something you have to do which involves some kind of, involvement of the admin. So first thing, we need to find who is the admin then. Like there is something related to admin, so we have to look for the admin or admin page. How can we access? If there is any user named admin, we have to look for that. Second, he runs it locally on 127.0.0.1. So it may help you after you get the shell, or you may help you before, you never know. Third, CSRF. So it is a beginner's level machine. It has told you that it is a CSRF. I am into web application, but still I have found it very difficult to understand how to exploit CSRF. So this machine actually helped me how you can exploit CSRF to perform account takeover. So here CSRF, and it is also letting you know that apart from a proper URL, you cannot put any kind of special characters. So this is these are the 3 hints that we have got. Now, if it has CSRF, the one thing that you have to think about is for CSRF to get exploited, you want the admin to be logged into his account, right? So the first hint is like this, that the admin visits the website really frequently. So it means that you can actually exploit, and if you're able to send some kind of URL, some kind of vulnerability, some kind of malicious URL, say something, if you can find it within the CSRF uh, vulnerability, if you can exploit it, the admin can actually log into and can be fooled into linking that account or doing something about it. Let's see. So there was one sign up page. I signed up over here. I logged in through my account. So here I can see that there is home, about, change password, messages, users, and logout. So we'll go through each of them one by one. Change password. Since I forgot to take a screenshot of the burp suit over here, if possible, I'll add it to the slide later and share it with you. The change password functionality, I mean, it did not have a CSRF token. So we understood that change password is the one where we have to perform, we have to exploit CSRF because it has test and password. So if you capture this in the burp, you can actually change the username to the administrator's name, and you can keep the password according to you. But for that, you have to share that link with the administrator, and the administrator has to click on the link. Now, in the first hint, it was already given that the admin is really very frequent. He logs into the account very frequently. So there is a chance that if you send the link to the admin, he may actually get fooled, and the password may get changed. That is, the CSRF can be exploited. Now we have to understand how we are going to send the link, or how we are going to do what's next, right? So there was one users section module over here, if you see, where we found that the administrator is true for Spider-Man, rest of them is normal users. So we came to know that Spider-Man is the administrator. So we have to look for Spider-Man. We have to change the password of the Spider-Man, right? So that we can log into his account. Now, thanks to the walkthroughs, I could actually understand how a CSRF vulnerability could be exploited. Till then, it was like we could understand how a CSRF have to be exploited, what has to be done next. But the thing was, I could not understand what should I be doing. So in this part, at this point, after after some hours of enumerating, I decided to let me go through the walkthrough to understand like how others have solved. So one of the walkthrough that I have followed, I have shared the link at the end. What that person had done is he had written a code, badform.html, where there is a URL. Uh, See, it was already given that it was running in the local host, as it was given in the hint. If you can see, terminal. Yeah, as it is given in the hint that the administrator runs it locally on 127.0.0.1. So we took advantage of that. We already know that there is a CSRF vulnerability on the change password page. And also, we know that the admin visits the website really frequently. So taking help of these three hints, we have actually written a code. Actually, I have not written. I took help from the walkthrough. I'll share the link. We have actually used the URL :8081 localhost :8081 /change -password, which was given over there. We changed sorry, the password to dead. Now the next thing is we have to understand how to send it to the admin. Now there is a utility or a functionality send message. Like if you look into it, there is a messages section over there. If you get into the messages section, you will find an option send message. Sorry, I forgot to put the screenshot. I would add it later though while sharing the slides. So over there, you'll get the send message where you can actually send a message to Spider-Man. So for this, what I did, I ran an HTTP server at my local machine, and I send the URL through send message option to Spider-Man, who is the administrator. Now we waited for a while and we found out that the admin, since it was given in the hint, logs into his or her account very frequently. So since it logged in, we got access. It means the CSRF worked, it seems. So next what we will try is we'll sign out of my account. We logged into Spider-Man's account using the changed password, which was dead, as I showed in the code. We changed it to dead over here. So we did this, and here we logged into it. So this is the messages section of the administrator. Now you're enumerating further. You have done account takeover. We have we can see what all messages other users have actually sent to the administrator. So I was admin at that time while I sent. So I can see that the URL, it has already been clicked, used by it has already been exploited by that by us. Now there's a user pirate who's said that your password is crazy password exclamation. So now the next thing is you have found the password. Now you have some usernames that you know, Spider-Man, Pirate. Since Pirate is telling it to Spider-Man, so there is a chance that Spider-Man is having this password as crazy password in any of his account. Now, if you remember, we had an SSH port open, so you can actually try. We directly tried. Let's see what happens. There's no harm in doing that, right? We just tried. We SSH'd into Spider-Man's account, Spider-Man at the rate the URL that IP that we had, and we put this crazy password over here, and we logged into. We got the shell. We got the user access. We got the access of the administrator's account. This is one of the steps of solving a boot to root challenge where we are getting the shell. Once you get the shell, your next aim is to find the root access. Now, since we had to find flag.txt, I guess, so for that you need to know what all permissions everyone has. But the thing is, due to some reason, I did not put because I did a lot of enumerations. It would be too much to put all the screenshots over here for finding the root access. I mean, for understanding what was the how I enumerated. I can give you an example, like what I did. Like, first of all, I tried to know what all processes are running, like ps-aux, ps-aux you can run. You can see what all services are run by root. You can go through them. You can see cron job. You can see many others. Apart from that, you can see netstat, which are currently running. Apart from that, you can do sudo -l. You can see what all permission does Spider-Man has. You can find for some sticky bit. You can look for them. There are many ways. I was actually going through these generic things while we found out that there is a folder VNWA. At the bottom, you can see we did ls-la. At the end, you will see VNWA. We did ls. We found there are two folders in the home folder, temp and VNWA. We went through there where we found certain folders, certain files. There are node modules. If you remember, while we were actually while we were performing nmap, we were actually checking what all ports are open. We could see that there was some Node.js. So sometimes what happens that if you're at the beginners level, right, you need to take help from walkthrough. You need to take help of your friends. So my friend, he knew about Node.js, so he could actually help me in understanding what is the problem. So I understood from him. I understood from the walkthrough that I'll be sharing with you, like what was the actual problem. So we just did cat internal server. We need to know what is present over there. So while going through the entire code, I found that they're using exec command. Now, if you know about command injection, exec is one function that can actually lead to command injection if you have not put proper validation, input validation, or other kind of mitigation techniques over here. Here we can see there is no mitigation technique, and being at the beginners level, I don't think there will be any. At that time, I did not think that much about it. So we have exec ping. So the next thing that I thought about is we can actually execute a command over here. Now the next thing at the bottom, you can see that there is a server which is listening on port 9000. It means this internal server.js is actually doing something, is getting run, or it is running something, it is at the local host at port 9000. So we tried several ways to run it through, we tried accessing it through the URL, but for some reason we could not. I'm not that good at Node.js though. So we tried using the curl command to see what happens. So we used curl. We used normal methodologies. Normal ways to write a curl command. So for the first time, what we did is we just saw that if it is pinging, if it is giving us some kind of response at the local host colon 9000, as we saw from there, what we could see is, yes, it is giving us a response. So we tried to see if we can perform execute command injection. So the next thing we did is ID. Let's see who is the user at that point of time. So so ID ran, command injection was successful. So this is vulnerable to command injection, and it is actually at the root. The thing that internal server.js is actually running at root. So here, if you want to get shell root access, you can gain complete root. You can run nc command. I can share the command with you. I can share the links through which you can do that to get complete root. Or else what I did was a kind of better way, because I did not, I just wanted the flag.txt, right? I did not want the root access at that point of time. So I simply did cat/root/flag.txt. Instead of getting the complete root access, it would have taken 2-3 steps extra. You just needed to use nc command. And at the end, we were successful in getting the root flag which we needed. And voila, we got the root, flag.txt. So here are a few things that I did while I used to learn while solving challenges, CTFs. I used to download vulnerable machines. They were always at the beginner's level. They were the easiest one. There was one machine that I could solve myself, and it was within 15 minutes, where I actually did not learn many things, but I could actually understand that, I have progressed a bit. So what I perform is I do enumerate, I get shell, get root, repeat. I keep on doing these things. Once I solve the machine, first of all I try solving it myself. If I can solve it myself, it's fine. If I'm stuck somewhere, I see it is a good idea to solve the entire machine yourself. It is a very good idea. But for the beginners level, what I would suggest is initially you need to take some help of from different security researchers blog, like what were their approach towards solving a particular machine, how did they do, and read about different security researchers blog. Every time you'll find they have different ways. Maybe in this machine there could have been a different way. Like I was getting into a cron job factor, but it was most of a rabbit hole. Rabbit hole is something like there are many services running and you get into the wrong service and you keep on exploiting, you try exploiting it, you feel that this is the one which is vulnerable, but that is not the case. That happens in OSCP lab machines, I guess. So that is what happens with most of the time, and it is completely okay at the beginners level, because even if you're looking into a wrong service, it is, you are actually doing some kind of research. You're understanding how to do it, why to do it, and after when you go through the walkthroughs, you'll understand why they had another way of solving or getting the root access or getting the shell access at that time. You'll understand what was their thought process, because you have to understand yourself. So take one machine, take at the beginners level, solve it, enumerate, get shell, get root, repeat. You're done. Take another machine, go through the walkthrough if you want to, or you can start doing it again. If you need help, you have internet, you have Google. There are many older machines. There are recent machines also which are quite easier to solve. They also have walkthroughs. They have videos over there. You can go through them, keep on learning. After solving 10 or 15 machines, you will actually be able to solve a machine on your own. And you never know, you'll actually learn. It took around 10 to 15 machines for me to actually solve some machines on my own. I still find it difficult. It was my complete approach in solving a machine and I love solving it till now. So thank you so much. And here are the references. My only references was Vulhub related links. So I actually used Doyler's walkthrough, which was quite interesting. I though went through all the walkthroughs, not necessarily completely. I did not go through them, but Doyler was one which I could actually clearly understand. It was the first walkthrough that I opened actually. So thank you so much. If anyone has any question, please ask me. Hello. Vandana, you are on mute, I guess.
Thank you so much. I know. Yeah. Thank you so much. It was a great session. Do you want to just
Thank you.
summarize what you covered the whole session?
I was actually I wanted to tell to the beginners basically like how to solve a CTF or boot to root challenge if you are at a beginners level, and how you can take help of walkthroughs and different resources that are available. What was my approach towards solving? I gave a help to them. I gave an understanding to them like what was my approach. They can take a hint from that and do their own like research on that. You are
Okay.
still on mute.
Yeah, I was on mute so that you can speak up. In the chat box, we don't have any questions at the moment. But if we get any questions, we will let you know. Also, if you can share the links for the slides, like your slide share link, we can
Okay.
post it in the chat box before we close the session, so that they can go back and refer to the slides as well.
Sure.
Video will be there for eternity till the time YouTube is there, so you can go back and refer to what you mentioned.
Sure.
So now
Okay.
um, we would like to invite Gayatri. Gayatri, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Great. Thank you so much for joining the first session. And now over to you. We would like to know about you, and then on what topic would you be speaking today?
Yeah, sure. Well, I'm Gayatri and I'm working as security engineer in Traveloka. So today I'm gonna discuss about how to use Burp Suite Pro plugins. So using this, you can actually fine tune your penetration testing results, or it can be useful for your if you are doing bug bounty. But basically, it will give the fine grained results for your web application security assessment results. So I'm gonna share my screen now. I hope everyone can see my screen.
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay.
Yes,
So
perfect.
basically, this talk is not about how we use burp, and I'm not gonna discuss more about the burp. I hope who joined in this session they might know what is burp suite and what it does. So this is basically about me. As I told, I'm working with Traveloka as a security engineer, and I have 6 years of experience. And I do part-time bug bounty hunting. I'm not seriously bug bounty hunter, but yeah, I do sometimes, and I got bounties also. And recently, I got into Microsoft and Evernote as well. And I love blogging. This is my Medium link, and where I'm going to share all the things that I am learning so far. So, as a disclaimer, this is not about, again, I am telling you, this is not about how Burp works. This is all about Burp plugins. So, in introduction, Burp Suite is like it's a proxying tool where you can intercept request and response of the web application. So it comes in two editions, community edition and the professional edition. In the community edition, there are limited features, so you cannot use burp plugins in the community edition. But in the professional edition, you can use everything, and you can import third party plugins as well. In the community edition also you can import, but there are some plugins where only burp pro user can enable it. So these are the burp features: target, proxy, intruder, repeater, sequencer, decoder, and comparer, and extender. So extender is the part where I'm gonna highlighting in this session. Uh, so once you put your browser to listen to the proxy, so this is the setting part. You have to listen, put your burp to listen onto this localhost address, and the same thing you have to give in the burp suite. So once you did that, so for this session I'm in my slides you're gonna see most of the things on demo.testfire.net, because it's a vulnerable application which is available on public, so you can do whatever you want to plug in play. Like if you want to test any plugins, or if you want to try any suppose you want to learn about SQL injection or XSS, or you want to work on WSDL web services, so this is the best site you can work on. So uh, for plugins to work on, first you need to actually set up your environment. All these plugins are wrote in Python and Ruby languages. So in order to support these plugins in your Burbsuit, we have to download Zython and JRuby. So here you can see on my screen, you will see you have to download Zython and JRuby jar files, standalone jar files. So you have to place them here. And once you place them here, so this is my first plugin which I want to talk about. It's reflected parameters plugin. So one I want to show it on the burp suit as well. In the extended tab, so you will see something called B App Store. You can see what are the plugins that are available in the burp suit right now. And you can if you press on this like last updated, uh, some yeah, so you can see what are the new plugins added to the burp also, like 12th July, that means yesterday, this new plugin got introduced into the burp suite. So it's all about, you have to give you have to play with all the plugins, but these plugins are really useful. It will easy your task actually. So you can play with them. And as I told, right now I'm discussing about reflected parameters. So uh, when you browse the site, okay, you wanted to try for XSS. So normally what uh, like I hope everyone knows what is cross-site scripting, how it works. The basic thing is, when the application is not having any input validation, or whatever the script that you are placing in the application, or in any input fields like URL or text fields or in cookie, which is got reflected in the response, reflected in sense the same thing whatever coming in the response. So there are chance of that, um, like if there is no proper output encoding, there are chances that cross-site scripting can happen. Like if you are browsing the application, if you use this reflected plugin, a reflected parameters plugin, you can see that query, there is a query parameter called query, where test field is reflecting. So this reflection will highlight in the like parameters where the value is reflecting in the response as well. Sometimes there might be false positive also, but you have to check it on the taking this to the repeater, and you have to observe the response. So once you saw something like this, this is actually for the monkey pen testers who are they don't know what exactly what how XSS works. So for them, like this is the best way, like how it actually to understand how it actually works. So as I told, take this to the repeater and see, observe the response whether it is reflecting or not. And if you put the payload, because this is a vulnerable application, so definitely there will be excesses, but not in the cases like you are working on some bounty program, or like if you are working on some web application security assessment. So this is the case where I give the XSS payload, so it reflected on the page itself. You can see the string called hi. But don't normally I don't recommend to pop the strings like hi XSS. This is a lead. You have to show what exactly it is impacting on your web application. So try to uh, get the session cookie or something like that. And next plugin is software vulnerability scanner plugin. This is very useful, and whenever a web application or something application that you are working on, so which is running on outdated softwares, okay, this plugin will highlight those outdated softwares. So as you can see, there are multiple uh, things that this plugin is highlighted. You can see it's running on the Apache Tomcat before 7.0 version. So there are so many CVEs. Actually, you cannot exploit every CVE on that particular web application, uh, but there are like RCs. You might have heard about Apache struts. So use like whenever there are less chances that application comes now. In internet, every like most of the uh, organizations pass that Apache struts, but you never know, because have you heard of this Equifax data breach? So it happened through Apache struts. So there are chances that you may come across such RCs. So next plugin is error message checks plugin. This plugin is useful when you are fuzzing an application. So normally for a pen tester who is doing on web application, it's always recommended to fuzz the application as much as they can. And there is a GitHub repository which is called FuzzDB. So you can download FuzzDB, and there is a one thing called payload all the things in the GitHub itself, where you will find so many uh, payloads onto SQLA, not onto the SQLA, every vulnerability that is exist in the internet. So you will find the payloads for that. You can put it onto your repository. There is a feature feature in the intruder itself, where you can like where you can put all your payloads, configure predefined list. So here you can actually if you put those payloads in one particular directory, you can import that directory here. So when you are trying to like fuzz the application, you just need to send it to the intruder, and you can fuzz it. So why I stressed about fuzzing is because this is more about fuzzing only. When you do the fuzzing, you will you will encounter something errors like this data error, sorry, detailed error messages revealed. But in this case, this is just ASP.NET exception. But when you find something like SQLA, you will always see some SQL exception, or Microsoft like whatever the database related errors. And you can also update this repository. As I told, there are the in first DB there are errors repository as well. So if you pass that URL, and if you give that URL in the load URLs, so it will give you the uh, like all the updated errors what you found in internet. And next one is SSL scanner. So uh, normally when you are doing in a company web application security testing, so if you follow this OWASP testing methodologies, one is like the SSL thing is also one it's there in the checklist, you have to follow that. So for those, normally we will take the URL into test SSL, which is installed in the Kali Linux. So you don't need to take that URL to Kali Linux, or need not to download any kind of tools to test for the ciphers or weaker versions. You just need to install this SSL scanner burr plugin. So once you installed it, you have to right click on the target. So you will see send URL to SSL scanner. Once you send that URL to the SSL scanner, you will see like what are the version it supports, and what are the size. It gives detailed result about ciphers and versions, what version exactly it's using. So you can export it to HTML as well, this report. And the next plugin is AWS Security Checks plugin. So when you are working any bug bounty, or any application assessment, so uh, where there is a file upload, or if it is if the application is fetching something from like it's rendering some PDF or some JPG, or any kind of media files. Normally, all the organizations use some kind of third party storage service. So nowadays, we come across with mostly S3 buckets. So this plugin highlights when it sees the S3 bucket in use, and it also tells read access is enabled. And if you give your AWS access key and AWS security key, and it also notifies you write access is also provided onto that particular S3 bucket. So this is very useful plugin. So next comes to CO2. CO2, actually there are multiple features in CO2, but mostly I use SQL map in that. Sometimes actually where I felt hard using SQL map which is separately downloaded in the machine, because sometimes I actually gives wrong command onto the SQL map, so it doesn't takes it will not take the command which you give. Sometimes always I see this command error, some kind of syntax error, something like that. So if you put this SQL CO2 into your birth, it will ease your task. You just need to send the URL, like vulnerable URL or vulnerable parameter to the to this SQL map. So for that, first you need to download SQL map. I suggest always look out for the latest version of SQL map, because sometimes like some always it gets updated. Like if you see the GitHub repository of SQL map, you will see lot of commits and lot of updates and you will see lot of new changes. So I always recommend to update the latest SQL map, and you have to give the SQL map path for that. And since I down this screenshot, I actually put it take it from my MacBook. So it shows the MacBook Python path for the MacBook, but for Windows, for Windows users, it will be always like in the C drive. You will see Python 27 or Python 3. You have to give the Python executable path over here. So once you did that, so this screenshot is taken from demo.testfire.net, where in the login you have a SQL injection possible. So you have to as I told, you have to just send that the request to the SQL mapper. So once you send it to SQL mapper, if you can see the screenshot, actually before sending it to the SQL map, I just took it to the repeater and I added a custom thing into the into the post data. So where you can see the star over here, that means I am telling the SQL map to check over there itself, check that particular parameter. So if you see the request, this is the post request, and you can see like JSession ID is already included into it. Like sorry, cookie header is already included in it. And suppose say if you are working on something where some API or something like that, there is a thing called headers. You can place your custom headers over in the next tab. So uh, once you give like this, you just have to check for whether this it's really working. If you click on the config, where you can see it here, it will show SQL map, all welcome, something like welcome kind of thing to SQL map. So once it done that, and you have to click on the run, so it will automatically detect, you no need to do anything. And uh, sometimes you actually SQL map will actually ask for prompts. If you give here you can see a extra SQL params. So if you give hyphen batch, you need not to press anything, it will do the automation part, so it will give you the result. And this is called cooler. Actually this is there is a tool in Kali Linux which is called cool. If you are OSCP certified, if you have done some labs onto OSCP, there is a one mission where this cool tool which can be used. So you can the basic functionality of the schooler is it will take all the keywords from your website. So you can take all the keywords, and you can extract those keywords and save it into one file. So normally for suppose say you are working on a bug bounty program, you can use this as well, because um, if it is related to some specific domains like healthcare or something like that, you will find on few keywords onto their site. You can copy this, and you can brute force of their subdomains as well, and you can with using this key custom word list. And also you can brute force login accounts, because I have come across one such scenario where I brute force the login which I found in the website itself. So you can use these keywords for directory brute force of directories also, as well as subdomains also. Wherever you can use these words for that particular application. So next is Wayback Mission. Right, Wayback Mission is actually, it's nothing but internet archive.org. um, internetarchive.org is like what it does is it actually have a snapshot of all your digital media content of your application. Like whenever it takes some snapshots, and it keeps into their repository. It's just archive. So if you so I work in Traveloka, so I used that in my screenshot. It actually crawls the URLs in that application. You can see this result in a like in a very short time. It takes only minutes to crawl all the URLs. So you can use this for your you can put it this in your spider list, or some um, or brute forcing list. uh, and Yeah, actually when it I wanted to show you one more thing about the Wayback Mission. There is a one article like the in Medium. This guy actually wrote a custom scanner on the Wayback like custom thing on Wayback Mission, where it crawls for parameters which are um, vulnerable to SQL injection. So you can see this, like this he created based on the Wayback Mission. So you can check out this article. Actually, it's interesting, and it's also useful for your if you are working on an external site. If you are working in internal site, I don't think Wayback Mission will have an archive. So next plugin is Collaborator Everywhere. When um, this plugin is useful whenever you see something like second order SQL injection, and out of bound XXE and SSRF. If you enable this plugin, it will highlight, like whenever there is a ping back to your work collaborator. It's not only ping back. There are actually types of ping backs: DNS, HTTP. But what exactly it does is, in every request, it actually this plugin will modify your request and place your collaborator address into it. So if there is any ping back, you'll see that in the but collaborator client. So you will see something like DNS lookup came from this so and so address. So this is very useful when you are working on XXE and SQL injections, second order SQL injections. And next one is scan check builder. So this is just like you wanted to use your customized payloads. So I have my payloads, SQL, XSS, and command injection related to you Linux and Windows. These actually I collected from the first DB and payload all the things. I put it into one thing. So you can actually give a profile name to a profile name as SQLI, and if you select the SQLI text, so whenever your scanner is check, whenever your scanner is yeah, normally you cannot scan on the public sites like mostly bug bounty platforms. You cannot scan because they always have some kind of WAF. But when you are doing it in your organization, something like which is internal site, you can use this scan check builder. So when you are doing active scanning, uh, make sure that scanning is in the scope. You should before doing any testing, you should ask them that whether we can do scanning or not. All these payloads, if you select this one, all these payloads will be included in your scanning part. So these are just like fuzzing payloads only, but will be useful. And it's just like to ease your task. That's it. And there is a new plugin came. This is like recently came. It's called Tarabrator, uh, which is related to Burp Collaborator. If you see some of your target, I'm not doing anything on the google.com. I'm just, this is for just demonstration. You have to send it to the repeater, and once this plugin is enabled, um, as i as I told, this is useful for uh, S- second order SQL injections, SSRF, and blind XXE. So you want to test this. So you will see something like Tarabrator. If you right click on the request, you will see Tarabrator, and you can, if something like you want to place your thing on the user agent, so you can do it like this: insert collaborator payload here. So yeah, you can see my burp collaborator address here. If you click on go, actually if there is some kind of bug is there, you can see that request came in, that same how the burp collaborator client, because this is also just to ease your task. So you can see all the request in this tab. This is also very useful. And next plugin is link finder. So normally if you are working on a dynamic application which is built on new frameworks like React, Node, or all the new JavaScript frameworks, there will be so many JS files. Earlier, there is a tool in Python. If you pass the JS file onto that tool, it's the same tool, Link Finder, but they have made one Burp plugin for that same tool. So you will see all the endpoints which are there in the JS file. So if you are working on any application, you will see all the like in this particular screen you can see something like valid URL found on this .json file. Like if you are working on a very rich application, you can see many things over here. I suggest you just you can play with this plugin, and you will find lot of interesting URLs or endpoints related to that application. And next one is Bitblinder. This plugin is not in Ports Figure. I think link finder is also not in the Ports Figure. You have to download it from the GitHub, and you can like you can add your custom extensions in the but sorry in this extender. So you just have to click on add. If it is written in whatever the language it's written in, you if you suppose say if it is Python, if you open that file, so it will change to Python. And if you click on next, so extension will be loaded like this. So if your plugin loaded fine, you will see like this. Otherwise you will see in the error. You have to see it for why it's giving error. You have to search for it. So this bit blinder is actually useful when your application is vulnerable to blind accesses. Blind accesses is a kind of stored accesses only, where you can like you cannot see it on the page itself, but whenever you come across something like contact us forms, or some input that you are giving to the application, where that application owners, or I mean or something like application support guys, or something like who uses that contact us feature, you can place your payloads over there. There is a one tool called XSS Hunter, which is good for blind accesses, uh, to find the blind accesses. So you just need to sign up for this site, and you just have to copy your payload. So you put this payloads onto the input fields like contact us forms. Not only contact us forms, you can also give it in the user agent. In sometimes some arbitrary headers you will see for that particular application, you can place there it. uh, if it is vulnerable to blind access, you will see that you got hit from that particular page, and you will get the detail. If suppose say it's there in the contact us page, um, if that's whoever working with that particular application support or something like that, who logs into it, you can see their session itself. Sorry, session instance, cookie details itself here. And you can sometimes if you are working on a e-commerce platform, so you can place this. If that platform is like which is not having proper input validation, you can place any kind of payloads like that. You can give this payloads into your address fields, or your name field, or as well your something like related to delivery instructions or something. If you see like that, you can give in those fields as well. So this bit blinder actually, um, every time it's difficult to copy your XSS Hunter payloads, and every time it's difficult. So you just need to copy these payloads, and you can place it in the here in the payloads. So when you enable like as I told, you cannot do scanning on the public sites, but if you are doing internally, you can use this it will enable automatically when there is an input field. This payloads will go into your that particular input. So likewise you can, and if that like I'm not sure about if that internal application can give some ping batch to this XSS hunter. That it's if it is completely internal, you cannot use this feature. But if if the in some, if your that application is on some public cloud and you have permission to scan onto that, you can use this feature. And yeah, one more. This is also new plugin which is not there in the port figure side. I'm sorry, I'm very bad in using PowerPoint. So and so when you are working working on some suppose say now in hacker one they updated, they gave a scope you can import their JSON files and you can put it into the burp. But earlier it was not like this. So if you see something like bug bounty program which has a vast scope, which has every domain in the scope, subdomain in the scope. So if you pass if you um, you can hit the base URL like this, and if you put the URL to your scope, and in the scope you can see something like this. You can use advanced scope control. So instead of www, if you change it to the star, you can see all the subdomains of that particular domain. So in this case I'm showing for demonstration only. It's google.com, and I just filtered it to only in scope items, so it is only showing the those particular items. So when you when you install this plugin, burp subdomains, you can copy the subdomains and you can place it in some notepad or some text editor. This actually it's not there in the burp. If you do like that, why I'm telling this is because sometimes working on a vast scope of domain. If you want to try multiple player tools onto those domains, you can you can take from this file itself, um all the subdomains. So that's all about the plugins. And if you want to go for the tips and all, you can check out in the Twitter. There is a account called B App Store, so you can see what are the plugins that are recently updated, or which are new to the burp suite. And apart from that, there is a GitHub page also for burp extensions, where that's called awesome burp extensions. They here they categorized into vulnerabilities. Suppose say it's cross-site scripting, you can use you use this plugins. And broken access control, you can use this plugin likewise. And you can actually there is a Twitter handle called bug bounty tips, and there are many researchers who talks about the plugins as well, and who talks about the some kind of tips which are very interesting, which will be useful for your bug bounty stuff as well, and your daily web application security assessment as well. So that's all about this session, and thank you. And also, I made a video about how to use CO2. Um, this is for practicing purpose only. I don't want to uh, take down the site or something like that. I It's just to show how the plugin works. I'll share that video later. So that's all about the session, and thank you. If you have any questions, you can. Sorry. Yeah.
Yes. Hmm. Great. Thank you so much. This was really good session. There were a lot of plugins which I never used. I would love to use them. So how can we get your presentation?
I'll share it. Like, if do we have any kind of repository so we can put the
Mhm.
files? So I'll share
What
it.
we generally suggest you to upload it on your slide share and
Okay.
share the link with us, because then the hits would be on, like, people will actually reach out to you rather than
Okay.
just reaching us.
Okay.
So if you
Sure.
can upload it on the share drive or slide share and send the link to us, we will tweet about it and we'll share it further with
Yeah. Sure.
everyone.
Okay. Sure. I'll do it.
Great. So let me just check if there are any questions in the chat box. So for the viewers, if you have any questions, please post it on the chat box. We will be available for another 10 minutes. Meanwhile, I will just tell you about the upcoming sessions that we will have. So we will have another session which will be on virtual reality plus security with the Kavya Perlman, with the expert. And then there will be another session by Nikhil on Android security, Android mobile app security with Android on 25th. It will be on the OWASP Bangalore channel. And after that, there will be a session which will be published shortly on threat modeling with Avi Doglan. I will be publishing the details on the same InfoSec Girls channel, and you can subscribe to the channel if you want to know about what all sessions we have planned, which are online sessions with this channel. And apart from that, we will be at certain conferences next month, and we would love to see you there, meet you in person. We will be at Black Hat, DEFCON, Diana Initiative, and besides Las Vegas. So whosoever is there, we would love to connect with you in person. And especially there are two passes which have been given for Black Hat to two of the students. We're really excited to meet them. And also last month we went for RootConf, wherein the passes were given away for to four of the women, and we actually got to know a lot about the developer community, because this was the first session that, or the first conference that we attended as part of the developer session. We got to learn and interact more, and we understood that there are challenges with developer space, and where exactly we can stitch together and get more inputs from them, because there are a lot of amazing things that we can combine with them and do. This is from this session. If you want to know more about the upcoming sessions, please follow InfoSec Girls, OWASP Women in AppSec, and WooSec tweets. You can you can actually reach out to the speakers if you have any questions, any doubt, or feel free to ping us on Twitter. We will be more than happy to connect with you, answer your queries, or if you have anything to share, we would be very glad to host you on the webinar. So thank you so much for joining today's session. See you in next week session at 8 o'clock, 8 p.m. Indian Standard Time. Thank you.
Thank you.